I want to talk about something that's affecting a lot of families nowadays. Yes, that is adults living with their parents here on the Vibes by Clyde. Two previous vibes, I have two segments. First is Funny Vibes, where I'm going to talk about how it feels to live with your parents as an adult. And then I'm going to get into some Thoughts Up Vibes. I'm going to talk about how you need to prepare yourself for success. For Funny Vibes, let's talk about cohabitating with your parents and how it may affect you. I have this young man who is living with his parents, and we're going to see his experience and how he is dealing with living with his parents in this video. All right, let's see how it goes.
What? Turn that goddamn water off. You don't pay. No bills. Dang, it's a little bit dark in here. You don't pay. No bills. Man, I'm hungry, man. I don't know what's up in here to eat. You don't pay no bills.
All right, I thought that was funny. Hey, please, if you're living with your parents, please pay some bills. All right, but I'm not even saying that this is not going to happen if you do pay bills. Because even if you do pay bills, you might still get this. And that's just because you don't have any leverage at that point. Living with your parents is going to be a problem if you're an adult. Sometimes, I hope sometime and not most times, but I don't know. But there are different kinds of living with your parents. There can be codependence when you depend on your parents and your parents depend on you. Maybe whether that's you know financially or maybe like mentally, or any kind of codependent relationship, or dependence where you're living with them. That's what we're going to talk about mostly today, because that's where most people are today. Most young people are in a place where they have to live with their parents because they don't really have much of a choice. And and there's another part which is when they depend on you. Depending when they depend on you. Maybe you make a lot of money and you're taking care of your parents because maybe they're old in age and they're not working as much, or maybe they're not making enough money, or maybe they're kind of sick and maybe they need some assistance with help. So maybe you're living with them. But we're just going to be talking about mostly dependence, which is you living with them in this situation, or if you're an adult, your kid living with you. All right. So there are some pros though. For instance, they love and support you. They care about you. They really take care of you. Whether that's cooking or cleaning or whatever, they help you stay focused. I know a lot of people need this a lot of people need this somebody to be there to tell them, hey, you need to focus on your work. You need to make sure you do this. You need to make sure you do that. Hey, make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. Make sure you take care of your adult responsibilities. Because a lot of people have a hard time transitioning from a kid to an adult. And making those doctor's appointments. Clocking in. Waking up early for work. You might get a little. You might forget how that feels. You might not have the what is it called the discipline to do that by yourself. Because if you're so used to your parents always making you do this, making you do that, making you do this, if your parents don't teach you proper discipline as a child, when you get older, you're not going to have that discipline, and you're probably still going to need them to help you do what you need to do. Also, you can have lower bills. Lower bills is a big thing. That's why most people are doing it, because the economy is not helping anybody right now. So you can help lower your bill. Maybe you pay half your bills. Maybe you pay half as much as you would pay in your own place. Maybe like a third, or maybe a quarter, maybe even like 10% of what you would pay. Just because your parents are doing you a favor and they're looking for you to leave soon. And the more you save up, the more you can possibly, the faster you can probably leave. But if you're, playing around with that money and not really saving it, and you're just going out to parties and nightclubs and vacations and buying expensive things and nice cars, that's probably going to delay your situation there. Okay, and you're probably going to keep upgrading your lifestyle and not having what you need to leave. Now you got a car payment. Now you got this. Now you want to go on vacations and you want to do all these things, and you made your bill so high that now you have so many, you know, unnecessary bills that once you try to move out, you can't because you can't afford it since your discretionary income is so low. All right, but there's also a lot of cons, which I'm going to talk about for the most part because that's what I'm mostly familiar with. um, all right, so we have some cons, which is your parents may annoy you, as you saw in that video. Yeah, his parents really did annoy him a lot. They're going to keep hounding you about stuff that you need to do, and a part of that is discipline, but also it can also be very annoying. But just know that they are trying to keep you disciplined, but they are annoying you like that. When they are trying to, hey, did you do this? Hey, did you do this? Hey, did you do this? They're telling you the same thing over and over and over again, probably because you haven't done it. They're probably trying to tell you need to do this. So they're still trying to discipline you when you're there because you're there. And they're not going to sit there and let you be lazy, if they're a good parent. you know, I would hope they wouldn't stay there and let you be lazy. But also, it might be a hint for you to leave. you know, maybe they're being annoying because they want you to leave soon. They're like pestering you on every little thing because every little thing you do is annoying them. You're in their house a little bit longer than they expected you to, and you're in their space now, and they're like, I need you to go. Like I want to live my life now. You're in the way. you know, it might not be on purpose though. Maybe they truly do have good intentions, and they're like, hey, I'm really trying to help you out so you can leave soon. And I'm really trying to help you learn how to clean up after yourself, learn how to cook your own food, learn how to pay bills. So that way, when you do leave, you're not living in, shambles. You're not behind on all your bills. They might be scared for you to leave, but they're like, okay, I know my son cannot pay his little $250 a month for these bills. And I know he has enough, but he's still not paying me. So I'm scared for him to leave because once he leaves, instead of 250, now it's going to be 2,500. you know, in some places, I hope it's not 2,500. Even though how it can be, it can be really bad. But also, they may still treat you as a child. They're used to you being there as a kid. Being there as a preteen, adolescent. They're probably used to you being a kid. Like I know me. I see my kid as a baby. Even though I know even though I know for a fact, that's not true. I still see the little baby in my eyes, when I see my kid. And that's how your parents may see you. They might still see you, maybe not as a baby, but they might still see you as a kid. They might still see you as a high schooler. You have these new rights, you have these new obligations and responsibilities as an adult, but they still see you as a kid, and that's going to really hinder how they treat you in the house if they feel that way. It's going to show up in how they treat you and what they do for you. But also, they might just be in your business. I don't know about you, but I'm a private person. All right, I don't like you being all in my business. All right. Then as an adult, there might be some hard lines there. Like, hey, mom, I know I'm an adult now. Okay. So I can come back home whenever I want because I'm an adult. I can leave at 2 o'clock in the morning if I want. And I can come back at 5 a.m. if I want because I'm an adult. But at the same time, your parents have they have, I mean, hey, it's their house, so they can still say, I know that you're an adult now. But at the same time, this is my house, and I don't want you leaving at 2 o'clock and coming back at 5 o'clock in the morning, because that's not how I treat my house. I don't want people running in and out of my house at 5 o'clock in the morning, and rightfully so. If you are living in your parents' house, that at the end of the day, that's their rules. So you got to do what they want, and if you really want to leave, that should give you some motivation to boss up so you can get up out of there. In some ways, it might be helpful. If they're annoying you enough and you might be like, yo, I can't deal with this. I got to get out of here by any means necessary. I don't care how much the rent is. I'll put my whole paycheck towards rent as long as I don't have to be here anymore. And at that point, that's good because it's going to help you get out because eventually you need to get out. And I do believe that men need to leave faster. Um, Men need to leave their house, I think, much faster than women in this situation because, women are a little more vulnerable than men. But also, you need to get out there. You need to start your life, man. You need to get out there and start making as much money as you can because girls aren't going to want you. Women are not going to want you. If you're a grown woman, men will still want you if you have a crappy job or if you're living with your parents. But if you're a man, but believe, no woman doesn't want you, man. And that's just going to make you, and that should make you want to boss up faster to want to get out there sooner because no woman wants a man that's living in their mom's house. Okay, I don't care how much swag you think you got, how much charisma you think you got. Even if you have a lot of money, if you're living with your parents, that's going to be a giant, giant red flag. And she's going to be like, yeah, no. All right. but also you possibly won't get much respect in the household. You know, if you are living with your parents, you might not, because you don't have much leverage. This is not your house. This is your parents' house. You're used to your parents live. You're used to this being your parents' house. They were living here before you, and yeah, this is their house. They got more leverage at this point, and that opens the door for you know some form of disrespect. No matter what that might be, and yeah, they might not they may not trust you as much to get out there and try to live your own life if if you don't have enough money to get out there. But yeah, yeah, just a quick side note, parents' point of view. I want to get into this a little bit. They might want to retire. They might really want to just have their own space. Maybe they want to take vacations. Maybe they want to do this, that, and the third. But like, they can't with you sitting up under them. They can't really do what they want to do. You're here a little bit longer than you were supposed to be here, and they're like, "Yo, I need privacy." Old people need privacy too. You think they ain't getting down, but old people are probably getting down too. I'm not old, so I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure old people be getting down too, and they can't get down when you in the house. All right, they can't get down how they want to get down when you're in the house. And I guarantee, if you're living in the house with your parents, they don't want you getting down in their house. Okay, so that's another thing. But yeah, yeah, they probably tired of caretaking at this point. They're like, look, I've done all my caretaking. I am done at this point. I'm moving on to the next stage of life. The next stage of life is not you being here all the time. You know, like I think you know parents get annoyed by their kids also. You think you're annoyed by your parents, but trust me, your parents are probably annoyed by you also. And I think that also there might be a situation where they might have they might need more money. And if you're in the house up under them, they don't have enough money. They can't get their money right if you're still there because they still gotta pay for your side. They still gotta even if you're paying your side of the rent. There's still other stuff that needs to be paid. There's still other stuff that needs to be done around the house, and you're probably in the way. All right, so I just wanted to get that out the way. All right, so the next segment is boss up vibes. We're going to talk about how success is when preparation meets opportunity. So you need to prepare yourself for success. Success is not going to fall into your lap. But if it does fall into your lap, make sure you are prepared for it to go there. Don't just be twiddling your thumbs waiting for something to happen. You need to be proactive. Okay. You need to be active in trying to seek what you want out here in life, because it's not going to come to you. It's not going to come to you that easy. All right. It's really not. And I don't want you to be sitting around waiting for something to happen. You need to make it happen. You need to make it happen. All right. So in this video, we're going to talk about how you need to make sure you prepare yourself for success. You know, make sure you're ready for it. Make sure you are the best possible
A lot of the times we think that success,
candidate for success. When people are looking for somebody to take the reins,
a lot of the times
they
we
need to
think,
look at you and be like,
a
"Hey,
lot of the times we
that
think
person
that
is a good
success
that person's a good choice. This person looks like he has it down. He looks like he's ready for whatever it is I need this person to be ready for." All right, so he's going to talk about how you need to prepare yourself for the next opportunity. Let's see what he has to say about the subject.
doesn't happen because we never get the opportunities for it. But in reality, a lot of the times it's because the opportunities are coming our way, but we're just not prepared for it yet. With that in mind, success is where preparation meets opportunity. So prepare yourself for the next opportunity. Ask yourself what success looks like to you and what type of person you need to be to actually handle that and to maintain that. So start practicing those things now so that when opportunities do come to you down the line, you're actually prepared for them, able to handle them, and able to actually maintain that success and not let it slip from you. Excellence is always around you. It's just up to you to seek it.
Yeah, I think that's true. You need to open your eyes, man. You need to be ready for success. You need to be always looking for a way to succeed. You know, it's not gonna just knock on your door. Hey, I'm success. What's up? Where you at? Excuse me. Hey, I've been looking for you. Where you at? You need to be ready for it. You need to be prepared for it. More importantly, and you need to prove that you're ready. You need to make sure you prove to yourself and also others that you're ready for success. You're ready for new responsibilities. You're ready to jump into action when you need to be. So if that's the case, you need to make sure you're ready, you know? So get yourself in position. Yeah, because nobody wants to help you if you don't want to be helped, you know? I heard this one thing about the guy, there was a guy from Declassified, so school survivor guy, you know? One of his co-stars tried to help him, you know, and he gave him a hotel and he destroyed the hotel, you know? I don't know names or anything, but that's just one example of how you need to make sure you're ready for success. He wasn't ready for success at that point, you know. And if the guy would have looked closer, he would have seen that. He would have seen that giving him a hotel would not have helped him at all. You know, if anything, you can completely destroy your own blessing. You know, somebody can give you something that's meant to help you, and if you're not ready for it, you can completely just blow it up. You know, you can completely just destroy the opportunity. You know, let's say somebody's ready for you to start a business, you know, with them. And they're like, hey, man, I'm ready for you to help me start this business. You know, I got everything you need. I just need you to I just need you to, you know, put up like 2 grand. Can you put up 2 grand? You know, if you can't put up that 2 grand, you're not going to be able to do it, you know? So yeah, make sure you stay ready so you don't have to get ready. All right. Nobody's gonna wait for you to get ready. They're gonna choose somebody who's already ready. You know, nobody's gonna be like, okay, yeah, I know you're still struggling right now, so I'm gonna wait. Nobody's gonna wait. They're gonna be like, okay, you're not ready. I'm gonna pick somebody else. You know, if there's a promotion that needs to be had at your job, and they see that you're not, they see that you're not ready for the position. Um, you didn't, you didn't reach the quotas that you're supposed to reach. But you didn't do the things that you're supposed to do. You know, your last observation, um, your last observation, you got negatives. You know, they're gonna look at that and they're gonna be like, yeah, this person's not ready. Who's already ready? Who already has the positives? Who already has the qualifications and who are ready for it? And hey, if that's you, that's gonna be you. Yeah. So just be ready um when it presents itself. You know, you want to make sure you don't waste time for people. So yeah, don't let opportunities pass you by, man. And also, you might need to move to another state if there is a possibility that there's success over there. You know, like I said, you know, make sure you go where there's success is. You know, if success is not in your background, if it's not in your backyard, then stop looking in your backyard. Look somewhere else. You know, and I know it's not easy to move all the time, but that's just something I wanted to make sure I made clear. But yeah, back to the point. Make sure you are ready to leave your parents' house as soon as you see fit. Okay, and sometimes there might not be a perfect time, you know, but make sure you prepare yourself as much as you can just in case you do need to leave. Like let's say if you're not ready to leave your parents' house, but somebody says, "Hey, you know, I need a roommate," you know, "Hey, I need a roommate. I found a really cheap apartment. I need you to move in with me so we can, you know, get on in this cheap apartment, you know." But if you're not ready, if you were wasting all your money, if you weren't grinding at your job, you feel like I'll just settle for a part-time job instead of a full-time job, if you're not ready for that new place, then by the time your roommate is ready, he's gonna be like, well, you're not ready to move in yet because you don't have a full-time job because you're not ready for it. I'm gonna find somebody else. They're gonna find another friend, and then you're still gonna be living with your parents because you are not ready for it. So try to prepare yourself as much as you possibly can to move out of your parents' house if this is your situation. Every day, whatever you're doing, nothing is more important than leaving your parents' house. Okay, nothing is more important than starting your life. So while you're living at your parents' house, your whole job should be leaving your parents' house. I don't want to hear nothing else about nothing else. Your whole job is leaving your parents' house. Okay. All right. Anyway, that is Advised by Clyde. So I hope that you enjoyed it. And that's how we're going to end this.